revealed, the incredible 10 minutes that transformed a CO's heart by a single dad janitor. Sarah Lawson rushed through the corporate jungle of her New York skyscraper, her heels clicking loudly against the marble floors. The weight on her shoulders pressed harder with every tick of the clock. Deadlines loomed, and profit forecasts hung over her like a storm cloud. Surrounded by wealth and power, she felt utterly alone, a modern-day scarlet letter wearing the insignia of success while her heart ached for connection. In those echoing halls, laughter was scarce, and camaraderie felt like an old myth. But everything was about to change in a way she never expected. Just outside her office, she collided headfirst with Tom, the janitor. His mop was tilted and a juice box hung precariously from his fingers. The world stopped for a heartbeat. A brief moment of surprise turned into a quiet understanding as they locked eyes. Tom wore a warm smile that could melt glaciers, his gaze brightening the dreary lobby. "Sorry, ma'am," he chuckled, as he deftly steadied himself while Sarah processed the randomness of the situation. They began to chat, the small talk transforming into a vulnerable exchange about their dreams and struggles, painting their lives with strokes of honesty. A CO and a janitor, two souls navigating the complex tapestry of ambition, each burdened by their own concerns but united in their humanity. "How is it going, Tom?" Sarah asked curiously, her busy exterior fading. For the first time in ages, she felt a pang of curiosity about someone else's life. "Trying to make every dollar count for my little girl, Lily," Tom replied, his voice soft yet strong. "She dreams of being a vet one day. I just want to make sure she has what she needs." A wave of connection washed over Sarah, her corporate armor cracked just enough for genuine emotion to seep through. She shared her own burdens, her fight for recognition feeling lighter in his presence. But the clouds began gathering again when office whispers turned ominous. An internal miscommunication threatened to drag her down, and before she knew it, Sarah became the scapegoat for a growing scandal. Tom stood by, a silent witness to the unfolding drama, his heart torn. Who was he to speak up when he felt invisible himself? Yet each time he thought of his daughter, each time he glimpsed Sarah's anguish, the spark of courage flared within. Fueled by compassion, Tom decided to pen an anonymous letter about Sarah's true character. He couldn't let this injustice take root. But his efforts went tragically awry, pushing Sarah further away from her colleagues. The implications of his well-meaning attempt gnawed at him. In a fateful board meeting, with tension thick enough to slice, Tom's heart raced as he stepped into the room. His presence ignited the air, confronting the growing toxic corporate culture. "Excuse me," he boomed, surprising even himself. "What's happening here? Isn't right?" All heads turned, eyes wide in shock. Their worlds defined by hierarchy, and privilege intersected in that moment. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. This unexpected bravery took her by surprise. Did he truly understand the stakes? "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The room fell silent, and in that moment, everything shifted. Sarah felt the pull of her heart against her relentless ambition. Here was a simple man standing for truth, challenging the very fabric of their corporate greed. Tom's call for compassion rang loud, a striking contrast against the backdrop of shareholder profits. As they looked at each other, an unspoken understanding filled the air. The allure of power dimmed, overshadowed by a newfound need for connection. Hope flickered like a candle in an uncertain wind. Would they risk everything to take on the challenges that lay ahead? The cliff hung in the distance, leaving readers at a thrilling precipice, eager to know how this unlikely alliance would unfold amidst the towering ambitions of the corporate world. Tom's heart galloped in his chest. He stood before the assembled board members, their stunned expressions almost comical against the backdrop of corporate dominance. But it was no joke. He felt the weight of his words pressing on him like a lead blanket. The silence stretched long and heavy, making his stomach churn. Did he really have the mettle to confront this world? Tom, is it? The disapproving voice came from Margaret, the head of human resources, her brow furrowed with disbelief. This is neither the time nor the place for your I believe it is. Tom's voice grew steadier as he looked around the room, meeting the eyes of the executives who held the power to decide Sarah's fate. I know you don't see me. I clean your offices, but I see everything. I see how you treat Sarah like she's disposable, while she's worked her heart out for this company. A murmur rippled through the room, a flicker of surprise that ignited sparks of curiosity. Sarah felt all eyes on Tom, a part of her wondering why she hadn't spoken out against their toxic behavior as vehemently as he did. Perhaps in their silence, they had all become complicit. Tom, we appreciate your passion, but you must understand the pressures we are under. Margaret tried to retake control, her voice almost pleading. No! He interrupted, his courage surging as if a floodgate had opened. It's not about the pressures. It's about the people who are fighting battles every day under the weight of your expectations. Sarah's been struggling, and you all know it. If you can't support her, it reflects only on you. You need to leave the room, another executive snapped, visibly shaken. You have no authority here. Tom's resolve deepened. Just because I'm the janitor doesn't mean I don't know the truth. I watch the people in this building come alive when they feel valued, and I've seen them shrink under the burden of indifference. I don't want to watch Sarah become another victim of this machine. She's worth more than the labels you give her. Sarah's heart pounded against her ribs. The courage bubbling in her chest surprised her. Was this janitor really standing up for her? It felt surreal, the perspective shifting completely in her mind as she saw how blurred the lines of hierarchy had become. Tom took a breath and continued, a powerful determination shining in his eyes. I may not be in your world, but that doesn't mean I can't advocate for kindness. You're not just running a business, you're building a culture. One where people matter. We don't need to write off those struggling, we need to lift them up. The boardroom crackled with tension, and Sarah felt her cheeks heat with embarrassment mingled with gratitude. If Tom could speak up for her, maybe she could stand against the toxic culture that had stifled her for too long. Suddenly, one of the board members, a senior vice president with a reputation for bravado, broke the silence. You're right, he said slowly, the weight of realization heavy in his words. We need to reconsider our approach. Hope flickered in the air, palpable. Could this actually lead to change? Tom's eyes briefly met Sarah's, and in that connection, a shared understanding blossomed. She didn't want to simply survive in this world, she wanted to thrive. Could they rise together? Let us work together, Tom proposed, turning to the executives. You have resources. I have insight. Sarah has the heart to lead us forward. This isn't about alienating anyone, it's about building a system where we can all succeed. As the meeting adjourned amidst hesitations and murmurs of agreement, Sarah felt like a new reality was beginning. But how far could Tom's bravery go? What would the path toward unity and connection really look like against the gears of an indifferent corporate world? These thoughts spiraled through her mind as Sarah watched the board members exit, anxiety tugging at her heart. Would they accept this shift? She turned to Tom, who was still catching his breath. Thank you, she whispered, tears shimmering in her eyes. You didn't have to do that. But now things feel different. The door swung closed behind the last of the executives, leaving the two of them in a fragile pocket of potential change. Would they truly transform this place, or would the old habits rear their ugly heads once more? What lay ahead felt both exhilarating and terrifying. And as they stood in that moment, the enormity of their undertaking loomed larger than ever. The quiet after the meeting was deafening, lingered thick with uncertainty. Tom stood still, his breath still coming in quick bursts. He had stepped far outside his comfort zone, and now reality began to settle on his shoulders. Would the executives act on the momentum he hoped to create, or would the harsh realities of their roles push them back into complacency? Tom, I can't believe you did that, Sarah said, her voice a mixture of awe and disbelief. She felt a spark ignite inside of her, fueled by his bravery. You really put yourself out there. He looked at her, a slight shrug followed by a shaky laugh. Honestly, I was just so tired of watching this happen. I've seen good people broken down by a lack of support. It's not right. His words struck deep in Sarah. She felt the weight of isolation in this overwhelming corporate landscape, like a ship lost at sea. But didn't you feel scared? Tom met her gaze, his eyes bright with passion. More than I can say. But it's about doing what's right, isn't it? If we don't stand up for each other, then who will? As they lingered in the tense aftershock of the meeting, anxiety mixed with something new, hope. Sarah could almost taste it, sweet and invigorating. It felt like a glimmer of possibility amidst years of stagnation. Do you really think they'll change? He paused, considering. I think they have to see the consequences of their actions. Maybe, just maybe, they'll realize that a team is only as strong as its weakest member. A nervous laugh escaped Sarah. They might actually listen to you. Let us hope that's the case, he replied, a smile creeping onto his face. If they don't, we'll just have to keep pushing, won't we? It's too important to just walk away. She nodded, feeling the warmth of shared ambition radiate between them. Each word was a promise to themselves, a commitment to fight the good fight. Later, when the office was empty save for a few late workers, Tom and Sarah began brainstorming. They made a list of ideas, simple yet powerful changes that could foster a better culture. Recognition programs, check-ins, team-building activities, every thought was a step toward the world they envisioned. As they scribbled down their ideas, the walls that had felt so confining began to shrink. They were no longer just an employee and a janitor. They were allies in a battle for respect and compassion. Tom, Sarah said suddenly, her face lit with determination. What if we create a series of meetings? Like a round table, where everyone can share their thoughts and experiences. We could even include those executives. His eyes widened. That's a huge step. But it could work, if we engage everyone. Suddenly, it's not just about hierarchy, it's about community. A small thrill ran through Sarah. Perhaps they were onto something. But then reality clawed at the edges of her excitement. What if they refuse? What if they see it as a threat? Just the thought made her stomach twist. Tom placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Change is never easy. It's the fear of the unknown that keeps people stagnant. We just have to prove that it's worth the risk. They might surprise us. As hope intertwined with fear, there was still uncertainty in the air. They were standing on a precipice, ready to dive into uncharted waters. Could they truly bring about change in a place built on indifference? With determination sparking anew in Sarah's heart, and Tom by her side, she took a deep breath, ready to take the leap. Let us do it. Together. And as the night wrapped around them, one last thought lingered in the silence. Would their push for unity become a beacon in a dark world, or would they fall victim to the very walls they sought to dismantle? The journey was just beginning, but what awaited them next could either transform their lives or force them back into the shadows. The next morning sun spilled into the office, igniting the space with warmth and possibility. Tom and Sarah stood in the break room, cups of coffee steaming in their hands, both fueled by the excitement of their plan. Today is the day, Sarah said, her pulse quickening as she glanced at the clock. We'll present our idea to the whole team. Tom nodded, but worry flickered in his eyes. What if they laugh at us? What if they think it's silly? Or what if they see how important it is? She countered, squeezing his arm gently. We can't go in there thinking the worst. Let us inspire them. We're fighting for a cause. It was a simple thought, but it gave Tom the jolt he needed. He took a deep breath, feeling the caffeine kick in. Okay. Let us do this. As they assembled the materials for their presentation, the weight of anticipation filled the room. Each poster they crafted, every statistic they included, seemed like an endorsement of hopes for rejuvenation not just for themselves, but for everyone they worked with. In the conference room, they stood before a scattered assembly of colleagues who had settled in with indifferent expressions. The executives lounged behind their polished desks, eyes narrowed skeptically. Nervous energy filled the air like static before a storm. "Thank you all for being here," Tom began, his voice trembling but steady. "Today, we want to talk about something we believe is crucial for all of us: a culture of support." As he spoke, the uncertainties fell away, and a purpose ignited within him. Sarah watched him unfold their vision, the words flowing like a river, each idea connecting every point of anguish they had both endured in silence. "What if we create a space where everyone, from our newest hire to the executives, can share their experiences?" Tom said, now feeling the thrill of their cause. "A round table, where issues can be aired, and solutions can be sought collectively." At the mention of execs joining in, a murmur swept through the room. Tom froze for a split second, anxiety creeping back. "Is that even possible?" someone whispered from the back. Sarah shot him a determined glance, urging him to continue. He pushed through. "Yes. It's about fostering understanding. It's about reminding ourselves we're all in this together." When he finished, silence hung heavily in the air. Tom's heart raced. Had he overstepped? But then Sarah's voice cut through the tension, leading with hope. "Change starts small, with conversation and trust. Let us foster that together." Slowly, one person started to clap, then another, until the room erupted in supportive applause. Tom felt a rush of adrenaline then, a feeling of camaraderie he hadn't thought possible. But just as victory seemed to bloom, the CEO leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "This is an interesting idea, but I want to make sure it's taken seriously. What's in it for the company?" Tom's heart sank, uncertainty crashing over him. They were standing at the brink of something great, and there was still that heavy shadow of doubt. Then Sarah stepped up, her voice unwavering. "What if we show that a supportive culture increases productivity? Happier employees lead to better results. Customers notice when we care." A flicker of intrigue crossed the CEO's face. It wasn't much, but it was enough to spark a glimmer of hope. Then came another voice from the back, a fellow team member. "I think this could work. We all feel it, people want to be heard." Tom and Sarah exchanged glances, and they held their breaths. Could this be the turning point? As discussions bubbled up around the room, the energy shifted, a current of possibility surging through. But amidst the excitement, a nagging question remained: would they be able to keep the momentum going, or was it just a fleeting moment? The door had cracked open, but would the executives step through? As they wrapped up the meeting and the crowd buzzed with newfound hope, Sarah turned to Tom, her eyes wide with wonder. "What if this is just the beginning?" And in that moment, a new wave of uncertainty crashed over them. What if the push for change led them to unexpected challenges? Their next step could either unite them further or unravel everything they built. The following week was a whirlwind of activity. What started as a hopeful spark in the conference room exploded into discussions that filled every corner of the office. Tom and Sarah were even invited to meet with the leadership team to refine their proposal. They spent numerous late nights drafting reports, gathering testimonials, and researching the benefits of a supportive workplace culture. "Tom, come look at this," Sarah called excitedly, her voice slicing through the hum of their office space. Tom leaned over her desk, peering at the screen. It was a chart showcasing the positive correlation between employee satisfaction and increased productivity at companies that adopted a culture of support. "This is amazing," he said, his enthusiasm growing. "We need to highlight this in our next meeting." Just as optimism surged through him, the door creaked open. It was Mark, the office janitor, carrying his mop and bucket, a soft smile on his face. "Hey, Tom." "Sarah." "I couldn't help but overhear you two talking," he said, tilting his head slightly, though an air of curiosity hung in his eyes. Tom hesitated. He'd always regarded Mark as just the janitor, a fixture in their office who worked quietly, going about his duties as if invisible to the rest. But in that moment, something clicked. "What do you think about employee support cultures, Mark?" "Well," Mark began slowly, "as someone who cleans up after you all, I see a lot. I see people feel stressed or ignored. But I also see what happens when someone really listens." "What do you mean?" Sarah leaned in, encapsulated by his words. There was a moment last week, right after you made your presentation. I was cleaning the break room, and I overheard some folks talking about how your ideas could change the atmosphere here. It made them feel seen, you know? Tom felt something stir in his chest. He realized that even the smallest changes could ripple through the office. Could you share some thoughts at our next meeting? Sarah asked cautiously, still surprised by the newfound connection. Your perspective would mean a lot. Mark's brow furrowed. I'm just a janitor. I don't contribute like you all do. No, that's not true, Tom urged. Your insights matter. You see things differently. You have a pulse on this place more than anyone. Mark appeared contemplative, glancing down at his hands before nodding slowly. All right, I'll give it a shot. The next meeting was electric with anticipation. Colleagues gathered not just to listen to Tom and Sarah, but also to hear Mark's thoughts. As he stepped up to the podium, his hands gripped the edge tightly. Hey folks, he started, his voice steady but tentative. I know I'm not one of the suits. I'm just here to make sure you all have a clean space to work in. But I see what is happening. You all are having a great conversation, but it can't just stop in this room. There was silence, but Tom could see the surprise in his coworkers' faces. I've been grateful for my job, but I've also been treated as invisible. What I want is for everyone here to feel like they belong. Like their voices are part of this company. The words hung heavy in the air. A simple janitor's heartfelt plea shifted the atmosphere, revealing a truth that affected them all. Tom felt a lump in his throat. Their plan was gaining momentum, but it was now amplified by this unexpected endorsement from someone they had all overlooked before. When the meeting concluded, there were more nods in agreement than he could count. This wasn't just a presentation anymore. It was a movement starting to take form. But as they celebrated the breakthrough, Tom couldn't shake a feeling of dread. The executives had agreed to move forward, but would they really commit? Would they really listen to each and every voice? Sarah caught him staring out the window. What's on your mind? We've stepped into something powerful, he said slowly, but are we ready for what lies ahead? She placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, her eyes reflective. Together, I think we can handle anything. Just then, an urgent email notification pinged on Tom's phone. Discussions with the executives are scheduled for next week. It's now or never. A knot of anxiety formed in his stomach. Could they push this idea through before it faded away? Would Mark's voice so full of conviction be enough to change the hearts of the decision-makers? And with that, they both knew they were standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to leap into the unknown. What awaited them at the bottom could either break them apart, or bind them together more than ever before. The days that followed were a blend of anxiety and excitement. Tom couldn't escape the knots twisting in his stomach. Each twinge was a reminder of the stakes involved. They had opened a door, but would anyone truly step through? On the eve of the big meeting, he found himself sitting in his small, cluttered apartment, staring blankly at the wall. The light from the street lamp outside flickered, casting uneven shadows across the room. He thought about Mark. He couldn't shake the memory of his words. The heartfelt sincerity in his voice still resonated loudly in his mind. It felt surreal to think how a janitor had inspired them to consider a more inclusive workplace. His phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. Ready for tomorrow? Remember, we're not alone in this. Tom took a deep breath and typed back, yeah, but I can't help feeling this pressure. What if they don't listen? What if they throw our ideas out the window? The response came almost instantly. We'll never know unless we try. Look at how far we've come together. Sarah's unwavering belief was a balm to his worries, yet he couldn't shake the lingering doubt. Around noon the next day, the conference room buzzed with a low hum of chatter. Colleagues filled the seats, a mix of eagerness and anxiety on their faces. This was the moment they had prepared for, no turning back now. Tom and Sarah sat side by side, their palms sweaty against the polished table. A hush fell over the room as the executives entered, their presence commanding immediate attention. The CEO, a sharp-dressed man with an air of authority, nodded to them, signaling he was ready to begin. Tom felt a surge of determination. This was more than just a proposal. It was a plea for change, a chance to make the workplace more humane. As Sarah launched into their presentation, Tom's heart raced. He could feel the weight of every eye in the room. We believe that fostering a supportive workplace culture not only elevates morale but enhances productivity, Sarah asserted, her voice steady and clear. She effortlessly wove the charts and statistics into a narrative that everyone could understand and relate to. But it was Mark's story that Tom had decided to share. As Sarah handed him the floor, he felt a mix of fear and resolve wash over him. "I'd like to introduce you to someone you may not know very well," he began, his eyes scanning the room before pausing at the CEO. Mark, our janitor, shared some thoughts that hit home. He sees the grit and grind that many of us overlook. A few murmurs broke out in the crowd. Tom pushed on, recounting Mark's heartfelt expression of feeling invisible and the desire for every voice to matter. One voice may seem small, but it echoed through this entire office. It reminded us that every single person who walks through these doors deserves to feel valued. Tom's voice wavered, but he pressed forward, driven by passion. As he finished, an unexpected silence filled the room. It seemed as if time stood still. Tom held his breath, watching the expressions of the executives. Would they dismiss this? Would they embrace it? The CEO cleared his throat, visibly moved. "Thank you, Tom. You've given us all something profound to think about today." Just as Tom began to feel a glimmer of hope, the CEO continued, "But I need to know, how can we ensure this isn't just a one-time initiative? How can we keep this momentum going?" Tom's heart raced again. This wasn't an end, it was another challenge. "We need commitment from every level, not just from management," but he paused, searching for the right words. "We involve everyone from the janitor to the CEO. It's about community." Before he could say more, the tension in the room shifted. Heads nodded, and conversations broke out among the executives. Tom exchanged a glance with Sarah. Could they really be on the brink of something bigger? But then, a sharp voice interrupted the chatter. "This is all very idealistic, but what about the costs? Funding this change won't be easy." The words hung in the air like a heavy fog. Tom clenched his fists under the table. Was this the start of doubt creeping in again? Would they let hesitation dismantle the hope they had built? As the room erupted into voices of concern and debate, Tom found himself drawn back in the moment, knowing they would have to address every concern if they wanted to make this vision a reality. Their future lay in this pivotal moment, and he realized they had to find a way to unite everyone's voice, even if it meant standing on rocky ground. But just as he was about to respond to the looming doubt, another notification flashed on his phone. It was a text from Mark. "Remember, change doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with us. We've got to keep believing." Tom's heart, though heavier, began to lift again. Standing there, surrounded by coworkers, he felt part of something so much larger than himself. Could they truly navigate this storm together? And what would emerge on the other side? Tom's mind was racing. The debate in the room grew louder, voices rising like a tidal wave threatening to wash away the hope they had just started to build. He leaned in closer to Sarah, who was furiously scribbling notes, her brow furrowed with determination. "Do you think we can sway them?" he whispered, though deep down he knew it was a question that echoed his own fears. "Absolutely," she replied, confidence radiating from her. "But we need to turn this into a discussion. Let them talk it out. They need to feel invested." Tom nodded, but the weight of each passing second felt heavier. He watched the executives, their faces a mix of skepticism and intrigue. Some leaned back with crossed arms, while others leaned forward, clearly engaged. It was then he noticed Mary, the head of human resources. Her eyes sparkled with interest. "Tom, I think we should hear from Mary," Sarah suggested, nudging him gently. "Right," he said, swallowing hard. "Let us keep this moving." With a subtle nod from the CEO, he gestured to Mary. "What do you think about this idea?" Mary cleared her throat, her voice steady. "I believe the foundation of any good organization is its culture. But it's also about resources and the right strategy to implement change. How can we ensure that this doesn't fade into the background after our meeting? A powerful question. Tom sensed the room hold its breath, waiting for an answer. Pulling from the nerve of inspiration Mark had given him, he took a step forward. We need actionable steps, Mary. Commitments that can be measured. Monthly check-ins. Involving employees at all levels, not just management. Make it our responsibility to follow through. Interesting, the CEO chimed in, his voice low and steady. But what does this specifically look like? Tom's heart raced again. He could feel the room focusing on him. We could set up cross-departmental teams that include individuals from every level of our organization. They'd be responsible for collecting feedback, making suggestions, and reporting back to the leadership team. What happens when those voices differ? Another executive chimed in. How do we resolve conflicts in ideas? Tom took a deep breath, gathering strength. It's about being open to dialogue. Every conversation brings us closer to understanding what works for everyone, and that requires real listening. He glanced at Sarah, who was nodding with fervor. Her unwavering belief was infectious. He focused back on the executives as a spirit of collaboration started to take shape in the room. Then suddenly, the conversation shifted again, this time focusing on a more personal angle. Let us circle back to Mark, Mary said, tilting her head. What would he think about all this? Does he feel comfortable sharing his story at an employee town hall? The mention of Mark made Tom's heart swell. I think he would love that. His story is a testament to the change we're advocating for. He is part of all of this just as much as anyone in this room. The janitor as a voice of change, one executive remarked with a half-smile. Yes, Sarah exclaimed, her enthusiasm palpable. He could lead the charge of community involvement. If we share his story, others may feel empowered to share theirs. This creates an inclusive culture. Excited murmurs rippled through the room again. The energy felt different now. It was more united, more hopeful. Tom felt the pulse of collective positivity building around them. But then, the sharp voice cut through again. We still haven't addressed funding. That tension was back, tightening like a noose. Tom wanted to scream, "Don't you see what we're building here?" Instead, he inhaled deeply. Funding is vital. But the impact of these changes will pay for themselves in employee satisfaction and retention. This isn't just a cost, it's an investment in our future. The debate shifted again, and when the CEO spoke, there was a new hint of warmth to his words. All right, let us take a step back and think about this. I see your passion and I want to explore it further. The question is, do we have everyone's buy-in? Tom's heart raced. This moment was so fragile. Yet, it also felt like a turning point, a cusp of possibility. But just as he began to feel the swell of hope, Sarah leaned over. Look at them, Tom. They're engaged. We need to make sure this isn't lost among numbers. That's when Tom noticed the slight nodding, the changing expressions. A spark of recognition had ignited in the executive's eyes. Could this really be happening? Would they decide to embrace change? As discussions narrowed and excitement filled the room, Tom sensed one last piece was missing. He flicked his gaze across each executive, feeling the weight of their collective decision looming. Could they all gather the courage to believe in something new, something bigger than themselves? As the conversation continued, Tom felt a deep yearning pulsing through him, whispering, "This is just the beginning, but are we truly ready for the path ahead?" Tom's heart pounded in his chest, each beat synchronized with the rapid conversation around him. The stakes felt higher than ever. His eyes darted between the executives, each expression a thread weaving the fabric of their collective decision. He could feel momentum building, but it was fragile, like a house of cards perched on a table. Let us shift focus for a moment, the CEO suggested, his tone now surprisingly contemplative. Tom, do you have someone in mind to help champion this initiative? It was the opening Tom had hoped for. Yes, I believe Mark could be that champion. His story isn't just inspiring, it's essential. He embodies the heart of our organization, a reminder of why we should always look beyond positions and titles. Then let us have him share his experience, Mary proposed, her enthusiasm growing. If we can show that change is possible at every level, folks will be more willing to commit. Tom couldn't help but smile at the thought. Mark was a shining beacon of resilience. The idea of him stepping into the spotlight ignited a flicker of hope within Tom. But it also came with trepidation. What if Mark felt overwhelmed? What if the pressure silenced him instead of empowering him? Let us reach out to him, Tom said, his voice steadier now. Talking about his challenges and triumphs could ignite something in our employees that we didn't even know existed. As support and suggestions continued to flow, Tom felt the energy shift, weaving an invisible thread that stitched them together. They were becoming a unit, a team focused on change. Ideas crisscrossed the room, each one building on the last, creating a tapestry of enthusiasm that filled the air with possibilities. Yet, amid this energy, doubt lingered. Would everyone truly follow through? What if this was just another corporate discussion that got lost in the annals of busy schedules? His worries sliced through the unity momentarily, pulling him down into a spiral of pessimism. Let us take this back to the employees, an executive suggested. We should outline our intentions in a town hall opening. It's important they grasp the why behind this initiative. Tom felt a spark return. That's exactly what was needed. The whole concept wasn't just about numbers or policies. It was about people and connection. He felt a rush of determination surge within him. Yes. Let us involve everyone from the start. Their voices matter just as much as ours. At that moment, a shift occurred in the room, a crackle of potential energy. Heads nodded in agreement, a chorus of yes echoing through the walls. Tom felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it. This was the moment they were waiting for. Before we finalize any plans, I want to propose something, Sarah added, her eyes shining with excitement. What if we host a small focus group? A chance for employees to share their own stories and give insights on the culture they want to create. That's a brilliant idea. The CEO leaned forward, visibly impressed. Let us put together a committee, with representatives from across departments. They could shape the direction of this project. Tom took a breath, letting the collective positivity wash over him again. It felt like they were all leaning into the future, ready to uproot the past. But then, as the conversation thrummed with energy, a voice pierced through the optimism. An executive stood up, skepticism painted across her face. This is all lovely, but we need numbers. We need results and fast. The room seemed to bristle. Tom felt familiar anxiety creeping back, but he forced it down. What if our effectiveness could be measured not just in profits, but in morale? Happy employees drive success. If that's not measurable, then we need to rethink how we evaluate success as a company. The air crackled as the tension balanced between doubt and hope. He could see glimmers of recognition in the executive's eyes, but the path wasn't clear yet. Would they be able to shift their focus from immediate results to long-term cultural benefits? Tom's heart raced. The possibility felt tangible, and yet they stood on the precipice. He leaned in, captivated by the buzz of brainstorming swirling around him. The answer to all their questions teetered just out of reach, brilliant, radiant, yet fraught with uncertainty. As discussions unfolded, a thought surfaced. Something critical awaited an answer that might forever change their trajectory. Could they implement all this without the defining spark that was Mark? And in that stillness, just before the next wave of ideas broke, Tom wondered aloud, what if Mark's voice was what we've been missing the entire time? What if he's the one to lead us through this? The room was silent, tension pooling in the air. The potential for a breakthrough lingered, giving promise to both hope and apprehension. Tom shifted in his seat, the weight of his words hanging in the air like a promise unfulfilled. He could feel the unspoken question rolling around the room: could Mark truly be the guiding light they all needed? After a moment, the CEO broke the silence, his brow furrowed in thought. Let us invite him in, the CEO said, flipping through his notes. If we can harness that energy, we might just light a fire under this initiative. A ripple of agreement swept across the table. The optimism surged once more, as each executive shared quick, enthusiastic nods. Tom could feel a surge of hope blooming inside him. Yet, As they discussed logistics, Tom's mind drifted to Mark. What if he didn't want to step into the spotlight? What if he was too shy, too used to the shadows? Tom remembered the first time he met Mark, that quiet man who kept to himself, yet had a presence that could silence a room if only for a moment. Can we get him here by tomorrow? I think we should try to have this conversation as soon as possible, Mary suggested. Her determination matched Tom's, igniting a passionate nod from everyone. Absolutely, the CEO agreed, tossing a glance at Tom. You can reach out to him, right? Gingerly, Tom nodded, his stomach knotted with uncertainty. What if Mark said no? What if he froze in front of the crowd? The stakes felt staggeringly high, and with each heartbeat, the urgency pressed against him. As the meeting wrapped up, Tom stepped outside, inhaling deeply. The air felt electric with potential. There was a buzz in his veins, the possibility of something profound. He pulled out his phone, hesitating for the briefest second before dialing Mark's number. Tom? Hey, what's up? Mark's voice came through, steady and warm. Hey, Mark. I really need to talk to you about something important, Tom said, his heart racing. We're working on a new initiative. One that I believe can change our whole workplace culture. We want you to be the face of it. A pause stretched uncomfortably long before Mark replied. Me? Why would you think I'd be good for that? Because you represent everything we want our employees to see. Your journey inspires people. And if anyone can connect with our team, it's you. Tom hoped his earnestness shone through. I don't know, Tom. That sounds intimidating, Mark murmured. Just think about it, Tom urged. You wouldn't be alone in this. We'll plan it out together. This is bigger than just you, it's about all of us. And I really believe your voice could lead the way. After an extended moment, Tom held his breath, heart pounding against his ribcage. I'll think about it, Mark finally said. Just let me know when and where. Tom hung up, adrenaline pumping. He felt a wave of relief, but underneath, an undercurrent of doubt still lurked. What if Mark backed out? What if he didn't show? The success of this initiative could be riding on a single moment of bravery. The following day, as the time crept closer for the town hall meeting, tension swirled like an unexpected storm. Tom's excitement was mixed with anxiety. He walked through the halls of the office, every corner filled with faces intent on their work, yet masked with the same apprehension he felt. Would they really be able to pull this off? At the last minute, Tom stood outside the meeting room, heart pounding as he heard murmurs inside. The anticipation was thick enough to taste. Would Mark be able to say what he needed to say? The door creaked open, and a hush fell as Tom's eyes met Mark's, who stood there, nerves transforming into resolve. Ready? Mark asked, voice barely a whisper yet filled with newfound determination. Tom nodded, feeling a spark of synergy between them. Let us do this. As they stepped inside together, a thought raced through Tom's mind. What if this was the moment that transformed everything? Every face in the room turned towards them, and suddenly, the weight of possibility pressed heavily on his shoulders. And as Mark took a deep breath, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something remarkable, something that could shape the entire company culture. What would they uncover as they took this leap together? Would they discover a voice that had been quietly waiting to be heard for far too long? As they stepped into the room, Mark's hands trembled slightly, but determination gleamed in his eyes. Tom stood beside him, grounding him. The room was filled with executives and employees alike, all eyes glued to Mark. Thank you, everyone, for being here, Mark began, his voice steadying with each word. I know I'm just the janitor, but today I'm here to talk about how each of us, no matter our place in this company, deserves to be heard and valued. A hush fell over the crowd, tension thick but energized. Tom felt his heart race. Mark was doing it. I've cleaned these offices for years, Mark continued, and I see more than just dust and dirt. I see the faces of my coworkers stressed, overworked, feeling invisible. But I also see potential in every one of you. We can change this culture together. The murmurs began again, a ripple of awareness sweeping through the room. This was no longer just a plan on paper, it was a heartfelt plea. uniting them all. Mark shared stories of quiet struggles. He observed the missed acknowledgments, the moments when employees felt like cogs in a machine instead of part of a team. His words painted vivid pictures, drawing soft gasps from the audience. "I've seen what true support can do," he stated, his voice rising with emotion. "When you feel valued, you thrive. And when you thrive, so does this company. Let us commit to lifting each other up, to fostering an environment where hope replaces fear." Tom felt a swell of pride as he listened to Mark. There was a fire in his voice, an urgent call to action. As Mark concluded, the silence held a power all its own. Not a single person stirred. Then, slowly, the CEO stood, clapping, his expression transformed. This is incredible, Mark. Thank you for sharing. We need to see this change through." Applause erupted, swelling like a wave, filling the room with a sense of electricity. Tom beamed, looking at Mark, whose face lit with disbelief. Looking around, Tom spoke up, "Change starts with us. If we listen to each other, if we invest in our people, we can create a supportive culture. It won't be easy, but together we can redefine what success looks like in this company." As discussions reignited, people began sharing their own ideas, stories swirling around the conference room as emotions bubbled to the forefront. Employees shared laughter and tears, an outpouring of connection that hadn't flourished before. The executives listened, their demeanor shifting from skepticism to genuine interest. Weeks passed, and the company transformed before their eyes. Teams engaged more openly. Camaraderie blossomed through the hallways. Recognition programs empowered every employee, no matter their title. Mark continued to be the bridge, sharing stories and gathering input. Eventually, Sarah stood in front of the packed office for the first employee town hall meeting, a proud smile lighting her face. "This is not just about making our workplace better. It's about fostering community and trust." Tom glanced at Mark, who stood shyly at the edge of the crowd. There was no hint of the man who had once felt invisible. Now he carried poise with every step. Together, they had challenged the status quo, igniting hope where despair once dwelled. As the meeting unfolded, they became a family, colleagues united, hearts open, filled with visions of a bright future together. It was exhilarating. There were challenges ahead, but the taste of community lingered in the air, robust and promising. Tom took a breath, realizing in that moment what they had achieved was beyond tangible rewards. They had created bonds, woven connections, and transformed the cold corporate structure into a vibrant tapestry of human experience. And as laughter echoed, conversations thrived, and victories were celebrated, they all knew change didn't happen overnight, but this was their start, a moment worth fighting for. They had jumped into the unknown together, arms linked, and what awaited them was a future filled with both challenges and the unshakable belief that together, they could face anything. So here they stood, united in purpose, ready to embrace tomorrow. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like right this moment to feed the algorithm. It really matters. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let us know how you felt throughout this journey. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Only true fans understand the power of these actions.